It's been said that if you want your plans to fail, start on Monday. And honestly, that's been my year so far. A lot of Monday starts that don't make it past Tuesday. So instead of waiting for a New Year's resolution, I'm using the last 68 days of 2025 to finally make the progress I've been avoiding all year. Here's the plan. Since there's barely 2 months left of the year, I've broken my goals into four main categories based off of the areas of life that I think need the most improvement, as well as what will be most beneficial moving forward. First off has got to be physical fitness, which I talked about a little bit in my last video, but we'll go in more depth about here. And then that's going to be followed by mental growth as well as digital discipline. And then the last of these categories, which is a little bit different than the rest, but I think is actually going to be the most important both for this year as well as the future, is reflection. For each of these areas, I've laid out at least one specific action that I'm going to be taking on a daily or weekly basis, depending on the case, as well as a larger goal to reach by the end of the year, with the purpose of setting up better habits for myself moving forward. So let's go ahead and dive into the first one, physical fitness. Last week I talked a bit about how I'm working towards running a 50K in 2027. So even though I'm just getting started on that essentially from ground zero, I still wanted my short-term goal for this year to focus around running to help me better prepare for that in the long term. So you'll have to excuse my doodle. I am in no way an artist or even much of a doodler at that, but this is what I've got. Like I mentioned before, each of these areas is broken out into a specific action that I'll be taking each week as well as a goal for the year. So for running, the action is that I'm going to be running at least 3 times a week, getting those in every week for the remainder of the year, and working towards a sub 30-minute 5K. Now, I know sub 30-minute 5K doesn't really sound like the most impressive thing, but for reference, just a few hours ago, I went on a run and timed myself for just a straight mile run, and it took just shy of 15 minutes for me to get 1 mile in. So when I say I'm starting from ground zero, that's where I'm at right now. I've been running for about 2 weeks, barely getting a sub 15-minute mile. So that means I need to shave off nearly 15 minutes within 2 months. Now, I am confident in this and working towards it because I've been running before. Like I mentioned, I attempted an ultra marathon before, only made it to 23 miles, but still, like I've done running before, and so I know a bit more of what I'm doing, which is why I'm comfortable stretching for this. But it definitely is going to be a push to get this in before the end of the year. Other than that, in physical fitness, I do also want to be in the gym at least 2 times per week. I would love to make that 3, but I think alternating 3 runs and 3 workouts in the gym while getting started might be a bit too much, but I think I will build into that in the future for sure. Next up is mental growth, which I feel like has both an easier action and goal for the year, but that definitely doesn't mean it's any less impactful. Like a lot of people, I have a bookshelf that is piled high with a ton of books that I've always wanted to read but never actually made the space for. So when it comes to mental growth, my goal, or excuse me, the action that I'm going to be taking each day is to be spending at a minimum 30 minutes a day reading. And then I've done some quick math, at least from how long I think it'll take. And with this in mind for the goal for the year, I want to be finished with at least 7 books. Now, I'm currently in the middle of one, so I'm not actually sure if I'll count that specific book or start to count once I'm done, because it should just take a few days. But yeah, 30 minutes of reading each day, 7 books over the course of the year, and that's the goal that I think really will help set a better pattern moving forward. Because reading is one of those things that's super beneficial. Now, I do want to clarify that I'm not counting audiobooks because I love listening to audiobooks, but for this purpose, I think I want to spend 30 minutes of dedicated time of just sitting and reading. So not just like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, but hey, here's a 30-minute block that I'm going to set aside to just focus entirely on reading and going through this book. Up next is digital discipline, which is a really key one for me. Now, the terms digital detox or phone detox or dopamine detox are all pretty common, so I don't think I really need to go into the super specifics of what I'm going to be doing with this. But the goal really is to be limiting myself to 1 hour maximum of non-utility screen time per day on my phone. And I define utility, well, I don't have a specific definition, but essentially, right, I'm using my phone as a camera right now, and I'm going to need that, or I use Microsoft Teams at work, things like that are like, these are more or less a necessity, they're utility function rather than entertainment or something of the sort. So, outside of those types of functions, limiting it to no more than 1 hour per day. The long term goal with this isn't just limiting screen time, although that is a big part of it, but it's also to find three different activities to do in place of the time that I would just be sitting on my screen to wind down. So this could be stuff like I used to play piano and I've always wanted to get back into that. So maybe taking more time for that, or even random things. It could even be video games, which is still screen time, but it's different than just mindless scrolling. Or even just conversation with family, with friends, with people around, whatever. But having like three specific activities that I go to instead of pulling out my phone to just scroll. Lastly is reflection, which, like I mentioned at the start, is kind of different from the others because it's not necessarily as quantifiable. But firstly, what I mean with reflection is just taking a look at where I'm at, whether that be each day or each week or month or whatever the given period, and saying, is where I'm at and what I'm doing, is what I did in this period of time moving me closer to my goals or further away. And sometimes that can mean I didn't do the action, or other times it means the action isn't actually moving me towards my goal in the way I thought. So, for this specific action, what I'm going to be doing is each day, to most likely in the evening, probably like right before bed, asking myself and walking through that question. Did my actions today bring me closer to the person I want to be? And then on a weekly basis, walking through essentially that same thing, but going through the entire week as well and reviewing the week as a whole. Now, that might be like some type of update video. That might just be something that I keep for myself. Not totally sure on that yet, but really it is going to be just making that space to make sure I'm actually looking back and saying, is what I'm doing actually the action that's going to get me where I want to be? So, yeah, that's my plan. It isn't anything fancy. It honestly isn't even that much. It's just about taking consistent action each day to work and improve in the areas that I know I need to. So, over the next 68 days, I'm going to be running 3 times a week, working towards that sub 30-minute 5K, as well as getting in the gym at least twice a week, reading 30 minutes a day with the goal of reading 7 books before the end of the year, limiting my screen time to 1 hour per day of non utilities, while also finding 3 other activities to fill the time that was taken up by mindless scrolling. And then lastly is going to be, asking myself those questions and making sure I'm taking the time reflecting on the action that I'm taking and where I'm working towards each day. What I have to constantly remind myself about is that it's not about perfection, but about pushing forward and making progress towards the things that matter in life. If you want to join me on one or all of these steps, I'd love to hear it. And I'm looking forward to making these last 68 days of the year count.